What it is, everybody. Thanks for tuning back in here to another episode here on the Speedbug channel. Today I want to talk about something that's pretty important because a lot of people neglect it, and that's chain maintenance. Now, the way I do it may not suit for you. The way I'm going to tell you may not suit for you, but I'm going to give you some quick pointers and tips here that are actually going to help you out a little bit and hopefully have your chain and its longevity further exceed your expectations. Now, to get a chain to do 10, 12, 13,000 miles, even 15,000, hell, I've even had chains, I think the longest one I had was like 25, 26,000, and you just gotta take care of it, and that's pretty much it. But let me tell you a little bit about it. So, we can go over here, because I think this bike here has about 9,000 miles on it, and my chain isn't stretched or anything at all. Now, what do I do to keep my chain lubed or anything like that? Well, me personally, I use WD-40. Now, before all of you slam me and say, oh, it's not a lubricant, it's this, it's that, I know exactly. Well, the thing about WD-40 is it's also a cleaner, and it acts as a multi-purpose tool. Now, its biggest downfall is that it does not stand up to heat very well, meaning as like in longevity. So if you're gonna ride this bike and do, you know, some like MotoGP type shit, you know, and your chain is gonna get super hot and stuff like that, WD-40 is definitely not gonna be your go-to lubricant here for your chain. But WD-40 spraying on your chain keeps all the grease and shit off of it, and it'll also keep your chain from rusting, as I have that on all of my bikes. And the chain that actually went 20,000+ miles was on my Hayabusa, and I had, what, maybe 300-400 passes on that chain. And finally, I think, what was it? It was just starting to break sprockets and stuff like that, so I knew it was kind of just worn out. But what I do, so they said, let me back up a little bit. So like usually each manufacturer or so says about every 600 miles, check your chain and stuff like that, and make sure that it's properly lubricated, tensioned, and tightened, as well as clean, because clean, you know, and its cleanliness has a long effect on your chain. Running into the O-rings and stuff like that in between your chain, you don't want too much dirt and shit to kind of get in there. So you have to keep the chain clean and lubricated. Now, there is a couple tools that I use to clean my chain that works very well. Let me see if I can get some. So I use some Moto chain clean, and this shit right here will take off everything on your chain. Now, and that's perfectly fine to use, and it works very well. But you gotta make sure that you put some lubricant on it. Not just some chain wax, you gotta have some lubricant, because without that, you just put that on there and go ride, your chain ain't gonna last very long. It's gonna heat up, all the O-rings are dried out, and you're kind of going to be SOL, and hopefully the thing doesn't snap on the side of the road or hell go through your engine case. For the people that occasionally ride their bike 50, 100 miles, 200-300 miles or something like that, and then you come in, you wipe the chain down, clean it, and throw some WD-40 on it, let it soak overnight, this, that, whatever, and then you're ready to go out the next day, this has worked fine. Let me tell you, it's worked fine for me for about the last 15 years or so. Now, if you're going to constantly be doing like high speed, I was like, okay, you're going to be doing 150 miles an hour and stuff like that, just booking it, hauling ass down whatever expressway, down whatever racetrack, this, that, whatever. That's probably not going to be your friend, because the chain is going to get hot due to friction, and you're going to want those extra lubrication properties, and the WD-40 is just not going to be able to hold up to it. So you're going to want to get maybe a chain wax and spray it on there as well, which I have one of those as well that I'd love to show you guys, which works really good. And that is Maximo Chain Wax. Works very well. But there's other things that even work better than that for other chain lubricants. Some people actually like to use gear oil. Old school trick, like some 75-90, works absolutely flawless. The only problem with it, it slings and shoots all over the place. But if you also use like a waxy, like a Moto chain wax lube, that works great, and that lasts a long time as well. That'll get you those 600-700 miles and keep your chain lubricated and stuff like that during those high-speed runs. Again, it makes it a very sticky substance, and then when it attaches to your bike and your rim and stuff like that, well, it can kind of be a pain in the ass to get off. But one thing that will take it off is that WD-40, which is great. So what I'm kind of getting at is that based on the kind of riding and stuff that it is that you're going to utilize, make sure you choose the appropriate chain lubrication. And all of my bikes here, all of them, except obviously the Diavel, because it has a belt, all have been lubed up. Well, first cleaned and then lubed and stay lubed with WD-40. And they work perfectly fine. Even when I run them at the track, the racetrack, you know, on the dyno and stuff like that, I don't be riding these bikes consecutively and straight for 800-900 miles in a day or at one time without ever, you know, cleaning or lubricating my chain. So I really don't have to worry about that. So when I come into the garage and stuff like that, I wipe them down, throw some WD-40 on them, and every time I go out, they're perfectly fine. They're never noisy. They're never clickety-clackety and stuff like that, and they work perfectly fine. Even the little Gromsky. And it's worked perfectly fine. So depending on, again, like I said, whatever it is that you're going to do and the style of riding that you do, just choose appropriate chain lubricant, and you'll be straight. Absolutely perfect all the time. And another thing that I must mention is chain tension. When you get on that throttle and get on it, it's pulling from the top side here, the chain. All the tension is pulling on this back sprocket, pulling and then going onto the transmission sprocket. And then it's obviously loose down here. But when you let off, then it's going to tighten up here and it's going to be loose up here. Bottom line is you don't want that to be too light and too tight and too loose, because when you jump on it and get on and off, the motor is going to spin up quicker than the wheel and obviously the chain. So it's going to cause you to pull obviously on the chain and the sprockets. And what that can do is actually cause the chain to stretch in that area before the tire actually catches up with the bike. So if your bike is usually always within spec, within chains, now over time they are going to stretch no matter what, but you just check that tension as well. But you don't want to always constantly on and off and on and off. You will pull your chain. Now if you got a chain that's going to have, you know, 10,000 plus tensile strength, 10,000 pounds of plus tensile strength, you might be all right, because that's kind of what these bikes are. But still, it's just not good for the chain. So if your chain is always within spec and it is tight, your chain will last a long time. The days of replacing your chain in 5,000 miles or anything like that is pretty much over, unless you buy a Grom, because the factory chain, as I mentioned a lot of times to all of you guys, they just suck. But overall, everything has been flawless. I don't plan on replacing any of these changes unless I change the pitch of them. And the smaller the pitch, the less, in theory, before I get too much slack on this, in theory, the less durable the chain is. But maybe 10 years ago or so, to have a bike with 200 plus horsepower with 100 foot-pounds of torque on a 520 pitch chain was pretty much like unheard of. It just wasn't going to happen. Now you can pretty much do it and it's no problem. You always had to have a 525 or hell, even a 530. 530 is great and it's super durable. The problem is that it's heavy and it's rotating mass, and it technically will slow you down. But that's another topic for another day. So I hope this video has kind of been a little bit informative to you guys, and hopefully it helps you with your chain maintenance. And if you have any questions, definitely feel free to comment below or ask me, and I'll be happy to answer them for you guys. That's going to wrap it up here for today's video. If you guys like what you saw, again, Facebook, Instagram, @SpeedBug, same name here as YouTube. And we'll see you for another episode here on the SpeedBug channel. Deuces. All right, y'all, quick reminder, March 8th is a Friday. Track opens at 5:30, 5:45 or something like that, whatever. And goes to 11. We race midday, in throughout the night. It's an open track event, and I'm really happy and excited to see all of you that come. Whether it's just one of you or 10,000 of you. Well, if it's 10,000, I mean, the track is really gonna be happy. But anyway, want to just give you guys some quick rules and stuff like that. It doesn't matter. 600, 750, 1,000, 1,300, it doesn't matter. You can bring any bike and race with, you know, 1,000 times that you want down the racetrack. But if you want to compete in my little exhibition racing class that I'm doing through, you know, the eliminations, you do have to follow those 3 rules, which you cannot be strapped, you cannot be lowered, you have to have a stock wheelbase bike. So you can have any other engine mod that you want, but you cannot be strapped, stretched, lowered, and it has to be stock wheelbase. Also, I want to remind all of you that you do need gloves, you do need ankle-high shoes, you do need jeans, you do need a leather or mesh coat to go down the quarter mile, you do need a helmet, and if you do pass 120 miles an hour in the quarter, they are going to make you require leather pants. So if you've been through this and already gone through it, if your bike, hey, if it traps 120, 121, they probably really won't say anything. But if you go out and you trap 140, 150 first time out, they're going to be like, hey, you maybe got one more run, and that's going to be the end of it. So I just hate for you all to get cut short and really kick ass, but I just want to help you guys out and give you some quick rules and rundown. But that's going to wrap it up, and thanks for tuning in. Facebook, Instagram, at the Speedbug, same name. Here's YouTube. Further updates will be on the channel as well on Instagram, and we will see you all at the track. If you have any questions, you can DM me on Instagram at the Speedbug. Deuces.